A long time, a lot of people got this quote from Darwin wrong, and they always said it is the survival of the fittest. In the meantime, I think most of us know it is the survival of the most adaptable. Welcome to this 30-day live stream about entrepreneurship. My name is Jurgen Moors, a strategic advisor, a coach, and a consultant. And why do I start it off with this quote? Well, today we're going to focus on resilience and adaptability. If you want to become a successful entrepreneur, then it is not only important for you to become resilient and adaptable, but also for your company or your team. And why is that? Well, if you look at the present time that we live in, technology is changing at an ever faster pace. And at the same time, when we look at the socioeconomic and the political environments globally, they also change rather rapidly in comparison with, for instance, a couple of decades ago, where there was a little bit more stability. So this is something that you will have to be able to acquire, that you will know that there are upsets. Now, what is the difference between resilience and adaptability? Well, the first thing, let's start with resilience. Resilience is the fact or the ability that you, as a person, you can quickly recover from setbacks and continue your way forward. Now, how do you do this? One of the things is to keep your motivation and keep your focus. And how I tackle it typically is when I have a setback or when I meet some problems, is to keep on putting in some action and some efforts to avoid one thing, and that's often that when your mind starts worrying, that's when things start to get really, really bad, and that's where also your resilience is tested. And when you don't give your mind time to start worrying by taking action, trying to change this setback anyhow, that's how you can build resilience, and you can also get better over time in that. The second thing, adaptability, is the capacity that you have as a person to adjust to new circumstances or to new environments or a new social economical environment with your company and with your team. So that is adaptability. And this is something that you can learn by being open to new opportunities, by not always saying no to new opportunities, by working with innovation, especially in your team and in your company, and embrace change and not always see it as a problem or as a risk as change. Now, let's go a little bit deeper to okay, how can we now really define strategies that are working for us to build, for instance, resilience and adaptability. But let's first look at the resilience. One of the things that is important is to cultivate a growth mindset. And 2 days ago, we talked already about a growth mindset of being such so important, that you are open and you accept from, okay, the way that I am, the way that my personality is, those abilities that I have, I can develop them over time. They can grow if I work on them. And to give you an example from that is, um, from a professional career, how we would build this growth mindset in my company or in my team was, I was working on, was the end of 2019, I think. I was working on a new robotic application together with a company from Tokyo in Japan called Hybrid, and it was the float arm. And we started from a design, and then we were now at the point where we slowly got to the first demonstrator, and we wanted to test it in real life. And that's 2020 when COVID hit. And so nobody was allowed to travel internationally. I didn't know for how long this was going to last. Nobody knew it. So I had to search for this, for how can we cope with this. And so I reached out to a plant inside close to Tokyo from my company and asked them, are you ready to do these trials for us, and also in such a way that we can witness them? So will you allow us to make some live streaming on it? And even I'm ready to pay you for that. So, and they accepted, because they said, wow, this is also a new innovation for us. They saw it as an opportunity. They embraced it to learn, and we did the testing in Japan. And later on, when travel in 2021 became back, or was back allowed, we would not test the first demonstrator, but we would test already the first evolution based on the things that we actually saw and also noticed at the robot or at the float arm in the beginning. But it kept us on track in time by looking for this solution. Second thing is to really foster supportive networks, because sometimes your problems, your setbacks can be really big, and the resilience that is asked from you is a lot, and it's good to have a good professional and a personal network at that point in time. Just to give you a small example from a professional network that worked for me is, also again in the robotic space. When this space started, especially for the oil and gas industry and the chemical industry, it was a rather small network that you have. And everybody joined and found each other in an initiative called Sprint Robotics. And there also met people from Dow in Terneuzen in the Netherlands at the time. They were just across the border from us in Antwerp. And we also hit it off on a personal level. And we would help each other when my budget would get tight or when their budget would be a little bit more constrained. And because we had the similar problems and we wanted to test something, we all said, okay, well, you can't, maybe I do it this time. And we would share the results. And that way we kept on progressing in this space as well. But this allowed us, when we needed a little bit resilience because we were constrained in our budget, we could actually still move forward. And the third thing is finding emotional balance, because resilience, yeah, you can have problems and some are really big, some are really small. So you need to find a way from, okay, how can I keep my head clear in these times as a person, but also as a team. So you as an entrepreneur, it's on a personal level, but you also need to be able to do this for your team. And people start talking about mindfulness, stress management, but I've learned that this is something that is personal for everybody else. It's not like mindfulness works for everybody. You have to find your way, and together with your team, you have to find ways that fit to them as personalities as well. And what worked really well for me is I discovered my peace and quiet when I started to do the triathlon, when I became a triathlete. And I'm so grateful for that. That when I took over the team that I had it in the last 6 years when I was at my former employer, I also tried to give them this opportunity or this potential way out when it would become stressful. So every year we organized with the club that I had, the triathlon club that I joined, a weekend of triathlon races, and one was the business triathlon, a quarter business triathlon, where companies could join up in teams, and the teams would be in 3 people, so everybody would take one discipline. You didn't have to do all the disciplines. And we joined that first year with 5 teams, so in total 15 people out of a group of 75, where you also have to be you have to know that there's always, yeah, a shift that is working. 15 people were almost working, so 30 people could never be part of that. So 15 was a very good result. And the great thing is that some people discovered the sport also for them as a way to relax. And one of the people that ran at that point in time, he continued and became a marathon runner 2 years later. Now, those are some strategies for resilience. Now, if we look at strategies for adaptability, how can you build that? Like I said in the beginning, you have to accept, or you have to embrace change and innovation. So you have to promote this culture as an entrepreneur inside your team, inside your company. Otherwise, chances are that over the course of time, you will lose competitivity and you will become irrelevant. And a company that keeps on doing that so far is for instance, Netflix. They started with DVD rentals, then they went over to the streaming market, where they became hugely successful. And even in the streaming market, they discovered after a while, okay, now we have to also start creating our content ourselves to keep on being relevant and play an important role. So now they also produce their own movies, series, documentaries, and stuff like that. So you have to keep on changing and adapting along the way, and embrace change as it comes, whether it's from technology or whether it's from socioeconomic or political side. That also means that you have to experiment. Adaptability is also something that you can learn by keep on doing experiments. You have to be able to fail and to do stuff, and not be afraid of failure. And to give you an example again from my professional environment, was at a certain point in time, internationally in the chemical industry, there were some incidents that were related there where somebody got injured. And so most of the companies started to get some kind of policy or regulations internally on how to handle this. And in my company, they came up with a regulation that we had to check them, and depending on yeah, the risk that was behind it with the chemical, it was 1, 2, 3, or 4 times a year that you have to check it. Now, if you're responsible for the utilities like I was, and they're running over a 600-hectare site, it means a huge burden for my people and a huge bureaucratic approach to it, because you would check them one moment every quarter at the best, and others one moment every year. So it didn't make a lot of sense. But at the same time, I was discussing with a group from a university. I was helping them to see from, okay, can we now bring a certain technology that they had to the market? And the technology they had is the badges that you typically see. They could track people with them for a shutdown. They could see where they were still bright, how they moved. And I said, okay, can you transfer this technology and make a sensor out of it that we can actually put onto manual valves, so that we not check them once every year, but we now get a signal, for instance, once every half hour or every quarter. And at that point, it becomes also more valuable and relevant to the problems and to the incidents that were there before. So they started working on that. Looked at 4G and Wi-Fi at the time. In the meantime, they can also switch to 5G. But I gave them, we created a startup company, Aloxi, out of it, and I gave them the playing field to trial and error. So the first time then when they came with their first design of sensors, for instance, if you look at a chemical plant, there's so many pipes and vessels and the basic steel construction that, yeah, getting a signal in and out is a challenge. So those are the things that they had to learn, and we had to learn also how to attach it to smaller valves, to bigger valves, so that they would not hinder people from doing their jobs. So with trial and error, we came to the point where now they got a commercial product already for a while, and they're rolling it out globally. And also the company that I worked for is rolling it out for a lot of applications in manual valve control. And the last thing, how you can build your resilience, is of course keep sure, or adaptability. I mean, is keep sure that you learn, you as a person, but also as a team. As an entrepreneur, you never stop learning. Otherwise, your adaptability will slowly degrade. So keep on learning about technologies, about enhancing your skills, and all kinds of stuff. And to give you an example from that as well, as when I took over the team and we were on this 10-year trajectory, becoming from the least digitized unit to the most digitized unit, yeah, we had to educate also the team and the people on all of the technologies that we brought on board, whether it was IoT, whether it was robotics, new systems that we would steer the whole plant with, and stuff like that, tablets. We would have to educate them. And so we gave them a lot of educational programs around that. And you could also see that people sometimes develop a certain interest in a certain area, for instance, in robotics, or for instance, in tablets. And they said, for me, I want to be the expert for our unit. So they went in really deep, and they became then the expert for the units that I was in at the time. So you have to keep on learning, because otherwise, at a certain point in time, you will discover that you are no longer adaptable because you're not up to date anymore with everything that is out there. The jump becomes too big. And that slowly brings me to the end of this, yeah, episode about resilience and adaptability as a very important skill for you as an entrepreneur. And that's also something where you have to lead by example and transfer this then to your team or to your company, so that also they can become adaptable and resilient over the course of time. Now, there's also my action points that I would give you for today is from look at yourself in personal life, look at yourself in your professional life, and look at maybe your team or at your company, and try to assess them from how resilient are we? Are we, when this is zero and here's 100% resilient, where are we on this scale? The same thing for adaptability. Where am I on this scale, and where is my company or my team on the scale? And once you identify that for yourself, and you say, from okay, we still have some room for improvement, think about what are some actions in the short term that I can do based on the stories that I just told you and the strategies that you can use to improve our adaptability and to improve our resilience. And with that back in mind, I would love to see you tomorrow when we dive into an aspect where I already touched about a couple of times. It's networking, and I gave you an example about how important it is to have a network for resilience, but I talked about an external network. Tomorrow, we'll talk about an internal network, especially as an entrepreneur in a large organization. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.